What's up everyone, my name's PlatinumHowler, and today I'm bringing you my Week 2 game of the IBL D-League versus the Bowland Bovines, coached by DrSlaking. His team on the right consists of Tapu Koko, Kyurem-Black, Greninja, Mega Pinsir, Nihilego, Uxie, Heatran, Rotom, Gligar, Conkeldurr, and Gastrodon. And his 2Z users, as highlighted on the right, are Heatran and Rotom. For this week's build, I'm taking a lot more risks than I did for my last week's build. I think my build for week 1 was a lot more well-rounded. I was pretty confident that it could take on any combination of 6 that my opponent decided to bring. This week is going to be a little bit more of a crapshoot though, as I'm bringing a lot more strange and off-the-wall sets. That's mainly due to the fact that this matchup I think is a lot more difficult than last week's. Let's start with the Fairy Dragon Steel cores, the OP cores that just keep on coming. Tapu Koko, Kyurem-Black, and Heatran. Just the Fairy Dragon Steel cores in this league are disgusting, and I don't like dealing with them. Also, an interesting thing about his team is that he has 5 hazard setters, but his only 2 removal options are Rotom and Gligar, which are both defoggers. 5 hazard setters with no rapid spin is that's kind of an awkward situation with how you play the hazard control game. Actually, 6 hazard setters if you count Mega Pinsir as a Stealth Rock setter, but I wouldn't count on Mega Pinsir coming with Stealth Rocks because, you know, it's a Mega Pinsir, it's meant to do some damage. But as you will see, I am not really taking advantage of the hazard control game this time. Only bringing 1 Stealth Rock setter and not even bringing my own removal, which makes me a little nervous because usually when I decide not to bring hazard removal, the game doesn't go as I would like. His 3 biggest threats to my team, I would say, number 1 above all is Kyurem-Black. My switch in to Kyurem-Black doesn't exist. My ice resist is Infernape, and I don't really feel like switching Infernape into a Kyurem-Black. And Sylveon, to an extent, might be able to switch into it, but not this particular Sylveon set. Greninja is also kind of a big threat because my usual Greninja check in being Sylveon, as I just said, is not what you would normally expect from a Sylveon. Also, Conkeldurr is a big threat. I can definitely see Conkeldurr coming as a check to my Mega Gyarados. As you can see, Mega Gyarados isn't coming to this game, but I think Clonk is a really good response to Mega Gyarados because it has priority Mach Punch that it can boost with Iron Fist. And it's also just very defensive and tanky in general, so it can eat hits from Mega Gyarados, Drain Punch off the damage, and Mach Punch to finish it off if need be. So getting into the first mon on my team now, we have Saber, our Raikou, and right off the bat we are bringing the event Raikou with Aura Sphere and a Rash Nature. This is big risk number 1 that I'm taking with this match. Raikou is supposed to be my primary check to a Pinsir, but with a Rash Nature, I'm unable to outspeed a Jolly Pinsir. The gamble that I'm taking here is that he brings an Adamant Pinsir. Pinsir, speed tier wise, the only thing that he would miss out on outspeeding with a Jolly Nature is Yanmega. And Yanmega is weak to the priority quick attack, and it can also easily have speed boosts, so there's not much point in really trying to invest to outspeed a Yanmega. So that's why I think he'll run Adamant for the extra damage output. Raikou has enough speed to outspeed a max speed invested Jolly or Timid Kyurem. Aura Sphere is going to hit that decently hard, especially because I do have the special attack boosting nature. He does have 2 ground types in Gligar and Gastrodon, so I made the call to put Hidden Power Grass instead of Hidden Power Ice on my Raikou. That's another risk that I'm taking with this set. I think Gastrodon is fairly likely to come when I have a Nidoking on my team, and Gastrodon is arguably one of the best switch-ins to the Nidos. we're gonna rock with HP Grass and hope that the Gastrodon comes over the Gligar. And if it does, that's also one less hazard removal option for him. And we do have Light Screen as well with the Light Clay. The majority of his team is special attacking. Outside of the Gligar Conkeldurr, I do have switch-ins to those. Kyurem can also be physical attacking. Of course, I mean, it does have a base 170 physical attack stat. And then Mega Pinsir obviously is a physical attacker, but that's what Raikou is here to keep in check. The next mon on the team is going to be Raxodi, our Nidoqueen, holding the Black Sludge this week. Nidoqueen is going to be our Stealth Rocker, and then it's going to have 3 coverage moves as well. Focus Blast is for the Kyurem, in case the Kyurem decides to come in on my Nidoqueen and I don't have anything that I want to switch into it. I'm just going to click Focus Blast and pray to God that it hits. Earth Power is for the Heatran, Nihilego, Tapu Koko. This thing walls Tapu Koko and Nihilego extremely well. Nihilego has to run Psychic to take on this Nidoqueen, otherwise its dual stabs are impeccably resisted by this Nidoqueen. The last move is going to be Ice Beam. Ice Beam hits both of his defoggers, being Rotom-Mow and Gligar, so if he wants to bring either of those in to try to defog, and I predict that's what he's trying to do, I can threaten those out and get my rocks back up immediately. Max HP invested for survivability. 84 speed is to outspeed a non-speed invested Rotom-Mow, and by extension a non-speed invested Gligar, and then the rest was thrown into special attack. Next up is going to be our primary win condition, Gadzooks the Flame Orb Latias. This is a very bizarre set. My opponent has a Greninja, which is a Dark type. It is Torrent Greninja, by the way, so he will always be Dark type no matter what move he clicks. And my only attacking move on this Latias is Psychic. And Greninja, of course, takes no damage from Psychic. So when I'm trying to 1v1 his team with this Latias set, I'm counting on the burn damage being the sole source of damage to whittle down the Greninja. So if he has a leftovers Greninja against this Latias, then I'm going to be in quite the pickle, because of course he will be cancelling out every round of burn damage with his leftovers recovery. Flame Orb is really there to avoid being toxic by the likes of Gastrodon, Gligar, Uxie, Heatran, those bulkier mons that are more likely to carry toxic. I do have to play carefully so that I don't switch into a toxic immediately, because Flame Orb won't proc until the end of the first turn that Latias is in, so I need to make sure that I can get Latias into a situation where it doesn't switch in on a toxic before the Flame Orb activates. The light screen on the Raikou set that I showed previously is mostly meant to also help this Latias boost up easier. Greninja obviously going to be able to hit Latias for super effective damage, so being able to set up behind the light screen against that Greninja is going to be nice. Also being able to set up behind the screen against Kyurem is going to be nice. I would outspeed a non-scarfed Kyurem with this set. The Latias has enough speed to outspeed a Nihilego, and if the Kyurem is a physical attacker, then I can choose to burn that as well. If need be, I will also choose to burn the Conkeldurr. I risk it giving it a Guts boost, but I really think that Conkeldurr is going to come with Iron Fist this week, because if you look at my team doesn't really have that dedicated wall that likes to click toxic. Like, if anything, that mon would be Sylveon, but you're never switching in a Conkeldurr to a Sylveon in the first place. So that's another risk that I'd be taking in the match, counting on that, or banking on the fact that he'd bring Iron Fist over Guts. But if I need the burn on the Conkeldurr to deal with it better, then I'm not going to be afraid to burn that thing. Also, last minute, I was kind of wrestling between running Psy Shock or Psychic, and eventually I decided on Psychic Initially, I had Psyshock for the Nihilego because obviously Psyshock is going to hit that thing a lot harder, but I shouldn't be that afraid of Nihilego, to be honest, because I can boost up on it and it shouldn't be able to do much damage to me in return. So I decided to put Psychic on it instead because I'd like to be able to KO the Conkeldurr at +1 after 1 Calm Mind boost. Conkeldurr's physical defense is quite a bit better than its special defense, so if it doesn't run Assault Vest, then I'm hoping that running Psychic over Psyshock can help improve the damage calcs against that thing. Speaking of Conkeldurr, this is not your prototypical Conkeldurr switch-in. I didn't necessarily design it to be a Conkeldurr switch-in, but it does 4 times resist fighting, and because I'm bringing the Z move on Yanmega this week, it will take reduced damage from knockoff, and you know, its physical defense is actually not too bad. It's very frail on the special side, but it should be able to take most hits from Conkeldurr decently well, potentially threaten it out. I have the Flyinium Z on this Yanmega. This Yanmega is speed boost, but it's not really meant to be a cleaner because he has a lot of mons on his team that resist Yanmega stabs, like Heatran. Heatran doesn't do much to Nihilego, it gets completely walled by. Tapu Koko resists both of its stabs as well. But the main thing that I want this Yanmega for is to come in, get a speed boost to against certain things, and ensure that it can get a Tailwind up on a turn that it dies. And then I can bring in one of my other 2 mons on the team and do big damage under Tailwind. Just max speed, max special attack, timid nature, max speed. It's going to be able to speed tie a Scarfed Kyurem if that's what he decides to bring. And if I haven't burned my Z move yet, I can get big damage off on that thing. Chose to run Flyinium Z over Buginium Z on this because if he decides to switch his Heatran in to deal with my Yanmega, and in that situation, I would like to go for a Tailwind and have him kill me off to bring in one of my other 2 threats. But if he, for some reason, doesn't kill me off and goes for a substitute, I want to make sure that I have the hardest hitting Z move to break that substitute. Of course, Supersonic Sky Strike is only 2 times resisted, and then Savage Spinout would be 4 times resisted, so that probably wouldn't be enough damage to break the Heatran substitute if that's what I wanted to go for. This next mon, my Sylveon, is the primary mon that I want to have run Train through his team under Tailwind. Now, the speed on Sylveon is a very aggressive speed creep. This is yet another risk that I'm taking with this team. The speed on Sylveon is enough to outspeed a Tapu Koko that has just enough speed to outspeed my Raikou, because my Raikou is the fastest mon on my team. Hyper Voice and Hidden Power Ground are really the only 2 attacks that I need. Of course, Hyper Voice is so spammable. The only resists he has to Hyper Voice are both quad weak to Hidden Power Ground. Both are relatively specially bulky, so I will probably need some chip on both of them to ensure a KO with Hidden Power Ground under Tailwind. So for the last 2 moves, I threw on Quick Attack in case I need to do damage to something outside of Tailwind. Quick Attack actually does about 50% to a Greninja, actually even a bit more than 50%. So I can potentially 2-hit KO the Greninja that way if I don't have the Tailwind up. Actually, speaking of Greninja, Greninja would also outspeed my entire team, so if he decides to also speed creep my Raikou with his Greninja, then Sylveon should be able to outspeed that. For the last move, I threw on Substitute in case I get the Sylveon under Tailwind, and his tactic to deal with that is to switch around between his Fairy Resists and his Ground Resists, that type of thing, so that he doesn't let anything take too much damage. If I notice that that's what he's trying to do, then I can click Substitute as the Tailwind expires, and I guarantee that I get off at least one more hit against something. So this thing is really offensively potent against this team. The challenge will be getting the Tailwind up as necessary. And the final mon on our team this week is going to be Hanuman, our choice banded Iron Fist Infernape, which has enough speed for Nihilego once again. This thing will most likely be my lead in this match, and it should threaten out a lot of his offensive threats because he, on turn 1, he has to respect the fact that I could be a Scarfed Infernape. So Tapu Koko should be threatened out by a Scarf Earthquake. Greninja should be threatened out by a Scarf Close Combat. He may choose to Water Shuriken me, but I don't think that should Oko my Infernape unless he hacks Skill Link onto it or something. Skill Link and Technician at the same time. And once I've revealed that I'm in fact not Choice Scarf, Mach Punch is going to be nice to get some final chip damage on stuff like Nihilego, Greninja, a Scarfed Kyurem, or Tapu Koko. Fighting is a lot more spammable against his team than Fire was spammable last week. So that's why for my Fire coverage I have Fire Punch instead of Flare Blitz, because I don't want to be chipping my Infernape down too much. If for some reason I do choose to click Fire Punch. Fire Punch is going to get its power boosted by the Iron Fist anyway, and with it holding a choice band, it should be plenty powerful enough to get the damage output that I need against the things that I would click it against anyway. The leftover EVs I threw into defense because it improves the chance that Infernape can eat a Adamant Quick Attack from Mega Pinsir from full HP. I think with that investment it's about a 12.5% chance to KO from full. So if it comes down on it and I need my Infernape to take on his Mega Pinsir, I can potentially survive a Quick Attack and fire back with a Fire Punch to knock it out, and then I won't knock myself out to Flare Blitz recoil, because, you know, I wouldn't be clicking Flare Blitz and taking any recoil. I would be going with Fire Punch instead. So that's going to be the team this week, and we will hope for the best. We will play this game very aggressively and see what happens. I'll be right back with the battle. Here we are back with the battle, and looking at team preview, the first thing that I notice is there is no Conkeldurr, which I was convinced was going to be coming to check my Mega Gyarados, but now instead I'm thinking that that Rotom-Mow is going to be Scarfed to check my Mega Gyarados. Tapu Koko and Kyurem-Black, those two big offensive threats are here. There's no surprise about that. Nihilego is here looking like it's going to be the Stealth Rock user on his team. We also see the Mega Pinsir, so that means Raikou is going to be very important to keep healthy to deal with that thing. And also Greninja is here, which is unfortunate. Greninja is going to make Latias's attempts to set up and win very difficult. So like I said in my team builder, I am going to lead off with my Choice Banded Infernape right away, trying to get damage off on anything that he decides to lead with. And he is going to decide to lead with his Tapu Koko, so I'm thinking that he has to fear Scarfed Earthquake coming from my Infernape, and possibly switch out into something else to take the Earthquake, or stay in and go for something like a U-turn, predicting my Nidoqueen to be the switch in. But I get this first turn horribly wrong. He stays in, goes for a Brave Bird, and knocks out my Infernape on turn 1. So remember when I said I thought that that Rotom-Mow might be Scarfed to take on my Mega Gyarados? Well, it turns out that this Tapu Koko is the Scarfer on his team, so he had absolutely nothing to fear in terms of a Scarfed Earthquake from my Infernape on that turn. And the fact that he didn't U-turn out against my Nidoqueen probably should have given that away, but I didn't actually find out that this was a Scarfed Koko until after the match was over. So with my Infernape gone, I am very far behind in this game already, but by no means am I out of it. I bring my Nidoqueen in to get up my rocks against the Tapu Koko, and he brings in this Kyurem-Black, which is yet another massive threat. Does so much damage with an Iron Head. Non-stab, Life Orb Iron Head still does so much. I had nothing to switch in. My Ice Resist is gone, and even if, however much you count Infernape as an Ice Resist, as a switch into Kyurem-Black, but thankfully he does go for a Dragon Claw on that turn because he wanted to guarantee knock out my Nidoqueen if I stayed in. So I go into my Sylveon to be immune to the Dragon Claw, and then pivot out into my Raikou to take this Iron Head. Actually takes this relatively well, and I'm going to be able to threaten this thing out with an Aura Sphere, which I do go for here because there was no way that I was going to pass up the opportunity to knock this thing out if it wanted to stay in, because it was looking like it wasn't in range to survive another switch into rocks if he wasn't able to get rid of them. So this Aura Sphere is going to come out as the Nihilego is going to be the switch in, and boy, that Nihilego is AVAF. Like, that did 5%. I'm a Raikou. I'm a special attack boosting nature Raikou going for an Aura Sphere there, and that just, Nihilego just shrugged off that damage like it was nothing. Holy crap. Anyway, goes for a Psychic on that turn, trying to predict a Nidoqueen switch in, but instead I stay in, set up my Light Screen, and go into Latias. I was okay if, even if he stayed in and went for a Poison move on that turn with Nihilego, and got a lucky Poison against me. I was okay with him getting the Poison because I would have been able to Psycho Shift the Poison away immediately. He had no other immunity to Poison besides the Nihilego, so he was probably going to switch it out, and then I would have got the Poison off on anything that he brought in. And he's going to have this Rotom Mow in now, so he's going to be able to defog my rocks away, and also getting rid of my Light Screen, which I'm fine with because I don't need a Light Screen to set up against this Rotom Mow. This Rotom Mow is not going to be able to touch me whatsoever. So he gets rid of my rocks and my screen, and now he's actually going to set up his own Light Screen, which is fine. That's not going to deter me from going for further Calm Minds. As now I'm going to get up to +3 special attack and special defense, and he's going to Volt Switch out into his Greninja. So, of course, this Latias set is mono attacking with Psychic, so the only thing that I can do to a Greninja is get a burn off on it with Psycho Shift. So that's exactly what I'm going to do on this turn. I cannot waste an opportunity to go to land a burn on this here Greninja. So he goes for a U-turn on this turn, which is unfortunate. I'm not going to be able to get the burn. Does actually quite a nice chunk to my Latias as I get the Psycho Shift off onto this Rotom, which is going to help negate his Leftovers recovery, but it was not the intended target for this Psycho Shift, as now I have to recover, keep myself healthy enough to take a hit from that Greninja, as he's going to Volt Switch into the Greninja once again. So I'm thinking at this point all he can really hope to do is just bring in stuff that can U-turn against me to try and bring me down low enough to a point where maybe he can kill me off with like a quick attack from Pinsir or something. But this turn he's going to go for the Night Slash, which almost knocks me out. And I don't click Psycho Shift. I don't get the burn off on this Greninja. I was thinking that he had to click U-turn again, so I was going to recover and make sure that I was at a good amount of health for that turn. Huge misplay. Huge misplay, because this is, in fact, a fully physical Greninja. Getting a burn on this thing would have been amazing. I would not have died to burn damage on that turn if I had Psycho Shifted my burn away, because my burn would have been cured, so I wouldn't have been taking burn damage on that turn that otherwise would have knocked me out. So I would have been able to possibly switch out my Latias, which I did here, into this Yan Mega, and then bring the Latias back in the future and get a recover off. But instead, I decide to switch in my Yan Mega, and because I take that damage with my Yan Mega, I am now guaranteed in range to die from a Pinsir Quick Attack. So that's kind of unfortunate. That kind of throws the potential of a Speed Boost Yan Mega cleaning in the late game. But oh well, like, I was going for the Latias win from this game, like, from the get-go. This Nihilego is going to come in because it walls the crap out of the Yanmega, especially with how especially bulky it is, as I get the Nidoqueen in and I'm able to get some good damage off with Earth Power against the Nihilego, but he is going to be able to knock me out with 2 Psychics and get a Special Defense Beast boost. So, because he got the Special Defense boost and not the Special Attack boost, I think I can go into this Latias here and get a Recover off, and he's going to bring the Rotom in once again. And this is basically you've seen these couple turns play out before. I'm going to start going for Calm Minds again because this Latias is really the only chance I have to win this game if I can get it boosted up. So you see Calm Mind number 1, and he is going to go for a either a Light Screen or a Pain Split on this turn. Yeah, he goes for a Pain Split here. He reveals he has Pain Split because he wants to try to bring me down to a low enough health where he can Volt Switch out on this and then bring Greninja back in and have me in range for Greninja to knock it out. But he's just kind of play a game with me here. Like, these turns are sped up because it's turns that you've seen before, as I mentioned. But he gets Slight Screen up, and now he's Pain Splitting to try and bait me into not going for a Recover and trying to go for a Calm Mind instead. So he does play this very well. He does catch me on the turn that I go for Calm Mind, and he's able to Volt Switch out into his Greninja. I'm not in range to die from a hit from Greninja at this point, but I have to go for Psycho Shift. I have to hope that he stays in and goes for Night Slash and get this burn off on this gosh darn Greninja, because I have very little else to deal with this thing, and it outspeeds my entire team. But of course, Slaking is not a bad player, so he's going to go for the U-turn and deal this big damage as I go for a Cycle Shift, and it fails because Rotom comes in. Rotom's already burned, so now I have to try recovering again, or I'm like, this Latias thing is never going to happen. But his Light Screen runs out, so instead I'm going to decide to go for the Psychic right here to try and get a knockout on the Rotom. And he hangs on with a Sliver, which is really unfortunate because now that is one less sack that he would have available to him in the later game. He gets the Volt Switch right back out into the Greninja. He's going to go for U-turn, obviously, so I am actually going to preserve my Latias here and go into the Yanmega, as now he can bring in the Pinsir, because the first time I had Yanmega in against the Greninja, I had free reign to go for a free hit, to go for an attack against it, but now he can just bring in the Pinsir and pressure me with a quick attack, which is why I'm going to go for a Protect on this turn, because he has the ability to potentially outspeed me and just go for a Frustration. So I went for a Protect here to force him to go for Quick Attack here on this next turn. Now, if he had stayed in and gone for a Swords Dance on this turn, that would have been a god tier play, but considering how ahead he is in this game, I didn't think that was a play he was about to make. So he does go for the Quick Attack on this turn, as I'm going to be able to bring in my Raikou, and his sack to this Raikou is going to be his Rotom. If this thing was gone, like, this would have really helped me out in the late game if the Psychic had been able to KO this Rotom, because he did not have good switch-ins to Raikou at this point. Raikou was going to pretty much going to get a kill against anything else he wanted to bring in, but he's able to bring in that Rotom very easily, and now come right back out into this Greninja, which is going to be able to get a kill itself with the Waterfall. So at this point, I decide to sack off my Latias. It's not looking like Latias is going to be able to do its job. This Greninja set is just too much for it to take on. Of course, I was expecting a more special variant of Greninja, which is what you typically see. So Latias is going to go down, and I bring in my Yanmega here, and I go for Air Slash just in case he wanted to bring in the Pinsir, which he wasn't about to do. But so now, basically what I have to do is let my Yanmega go down, set up the Tailwind, and bring in my Sylveon to get a bunch of kills and pretty much hope that he sacks the wrong Mons, because he still has 5 Mons left. Like, I don't have enough turns of Tailwind with Sylveon to win this game, unfortunately. So I have to hope that he sacks the wrong things here. So, like, obviously he's going to leave this Nihilego in here. Hidden Power Ground is going to be enough to take him out. So now he's down to 4 Mons. So he still has Kyurem-Black left, which is what he's going to bring in here. This was the right thing to bring in for him, because this thing was, Sylveon was going to be able to take care of it. Raikou, which I still have, was going to be able to take care of it. So he made the right play to sacrifice this. Basically what I needed to hope for here was that he went into the Greninja or the Pinsir, so I could get big damage off on those things. But he wasn't about to do that. This is now my last turn of Tailwind. The Tapu Koko is in here, and because he is Scarfed, he is going to be able to outspeed me and get a Volt Switch off. So I'm not going to get any damage off against the Koko. Instead, I'm going to get it off against this Pinsir. Unfortunate that I wasn't getting it off against the Greninja, though. And this Pinsir actually survives this max special attack, modest life orb, hyper voice, and now with my Tailwind expired, I go for quick attack to try and pick this off, and it survives on just a little sliver again. It didn't this time it didn't actually matter, because either way Greninja could have came in and cleaned up with a couple of waterfalls against my 2 remaining Mons. Yeah, so like back to the Greninja and sacking the wrong things. Like, I had to hope that he would go into his Greninja and maybe let it go down to my Sylveon on that turn, or if I had outsped the Koko under Tailwind, I could have got the Hyper Voice off against it, knocked it out, and then I wouldn't have taken that Volt Switch damage from it. And if I was high enough, I could have maybe go to his Greninja into going for a Gunk Shot, because I do presume that was his last move on the Greninja, Gunk Shot. I do think he was an Expert Belt Gunk Shot set. We saw U-Turn, Waterfall, and Night Slash, so his last move was definitely either Gunk Shot for Sylveon or Low Kick for Mega Gyarados. But regardless, DrSlaking played the end game the way that he needed to, and he's going to be able to take this game 2-0. Good game to DrSlaking. He played and prepped for this game a hell of a lot better than I did, and he fully deserves this win. He had all of the momentum in this game right from the start when I lost my Infernape on turn 1. Losing Infernape lost me so much offensive pressure potential in this game. Greninja, of course, was super annoying. I didn't have the ability to bring my Infernape in and threaten it out with a Mach Punch. And just the fact that he brought a physical set to specifically take on Latias that might want to set up with Calm Minds was also very good prep on his part, and perhaps something that I should have been expecting and definitely will take into account should we meet again in playoffs. Of course, I may have been able to deal with it if I didn't make that misplay and not go for the Psycho Shift on the turn that Greninja stayed in and Night Slashed my Latias, but alas, misplays happen. Latias could have potentially got 1 kill against that Rotom-Mow, and had he had not been able to preserve that Rotom-Mow as a sack to my Raikou later in the game, I might have been able to squeeze an extra differential point out of this. As long as he still preserved his Greninja for after Tailwind expired late in the game, he should have still had this. The other thing I could have done differently in this game is, after I realized that Greninja was going to be able to deal well enough with the Latias, then I might have been able to put in some decent work with speed boosting Yanmega. I would have had to hope for some air slash flinches for sure. But if I had gotten those, I also could have busted my Z move on something like Tapu Koko, and I may have been able to clean with Yanmega, but once I let the Yanmega take that first Night Slash from Greninja, there was no way, there was no chance that I had of cleaning with Yanmega, because at that point it was in range to die from a Pinsir Quick Attack. At this point, though, there's nothing that I can do. A loss is a loss, and one loss is not going to set us back too much. It's still very early in the season, and we have plenty of time to bounce back from this. Of course, if I had a chance to do this game over, I would have done a lot of things differently, in prep especially. But that's going to be it for this video. Be sure to check out DrSlaking's channel and his side of the battle in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel for future videos. Next week, we are going to be taking on D-Train's replacement coach. We are not going to be taking on the St. Louis Booloos. Instead, we will be taking on Bright Lovely Manbird and the Fort Wayne Gastrodons. So looking forward to that matchup, and we'll see you then.